Passengers is an American sci-fi drama that hits hard on the agony of human loneliness, moral dilemmas, and that epic clash between fate versus free will. The movie really makes you think, is loneliness the ultimate nightmare? And is love just a random twist of fate, or a straight-up selfish choice? But before we begin, please share the video, and subscribe to my channel. The story begins in the depths of space, where we see a spaceship Avalon, which is on a 120-year-long journey with 258 crew and 5,000 passengers to settle human civilization on a planet named Homestead. The ship is on autopilot mode, and all the crew and passengers are in deep sleep inside their respective hibernation pod. Everything is going perfectly, and it seems the ship will reach its destination on time. Then suddenly a asteroid belt comes in the way, a powerful collision happens. But the ship's security system is so advanced and strong that only minor damage occurred, and the ship fixed most of the faults on its own, but it couldn't fix one hibernation pod, due to which the passenger Jim inside it woke up from sleep. He is confused. The ship's hologram assistant tells him that he is a passenger on Homestead Company's Avalon ship and that he had been asleep for 120 years, which is why stress and fatigue are completely normal. The hologram assistant tells him that within the next 4 months, everyone will reach their destination, Homestead 2, a new world. The assistant also tells him that there is an ID band tied to his wrist, through which he can access his cabin and other facilities of the ship. The assistant gave him other information. Then Jim went to his cabin. After resting, when he came out of the cabin, he soon realized that he is alone on the ship. Upon investigation, it was found that the journey is 120 years long and only 30 years have passed since they left Earth, meaning he woke up before the scheduled time. Jim's restlessness keeps increasing. He tells all the ship's computerized assistants about his problem and asks for a solution, but unfortunately, he doesn't receive much help from these programmed assistants. And he ends up spending his $6,012 to send a message to Earth, which will take 19 years just to reach there and 56 years to receive a reply. A hopeless Jim is heading back toward his cabin when his eyes suddenly fall on a person standing at the bar. He feels life return to his body, but as he comes closer, his hopes shatter once again, because the bartender who looks human is not a human at all, but a robot. A robot it may be, but at least he finds someone to talk to. He downs 2 or 3 pegs of whiskey and sets out to search for a solution to his problems. He gathered information about the hibernation pod from the technical documentation room and heads out with tools. After messing around with some wires here and there, the pod finally turns on. But when Jim gets inside the pod and tries to go back into deep sleep again, he fails. He barely escapes with his life. In frustration, Jim tries to open the Avalon crew pod room, but this requires special authorization, and according to the ship, Jim Preston is a second-class passenger. He can't even drink his favorite coffee here. He uses everything from a hammer to a gas cutter, but not even a single scratch appears on the door of the crew pod room. Jim's hopes were now crumbling. He'd even stopped trying altogether. To drown his sorrow and loneliness, he keeps drinking all day and cursed his fate. The bartender might be a robot, but he talks philosophical stuff too. He's telling Jim not to worry about things he can't control. The robot's advice is that Jim should stop thinking about his troubles, start living a bit, and enjoy Avalon's facilities. The robot's suggestion is like a straw for a drowning man, but Jim has no other way out either. He decided that now he'll stay happy. Avalon is no less than a 7-star hotel. When he went to a suite room, he was stunned by the grandeur. He had a blast for a few months, but now he's bored of all this. Maybe these aren't the things Jim wants from his life. His condition is worsening day by day. Loneliness is creating mental stress inside him. One evening he drank a ton of booze and decided to end his life. He tried opening the ship's door without a spacesuit, but maybe his conscience stopped him. He was running back to his cabin when his foot hit a booze bottle and he fell flat. And as soon as he got up, his eyes fell on a girl, who was in deep sleep in a pod right in front of him. Jim fell in love with the girl at first sight. After checking her out, he found out her name is Aurora Lane and she's a writer by profession. Jim read all the books written by Aurora, and the more he read, the deeper his attraction to Aurora grew. Now loneliness doesn't torment him on this ship. He spends most of his time near Aurora's pod reading her books and watching her videos. Now he's even given the robot a name, Arthur. And Jim only talks to Arthur about Aurora, saying he's fallen in love with her. He's asking Arthur if he should wake Aurora up. Arthur has no answer, but Jim knows that would be very wrong. He spent a whole year trying to suppress his desires and completely remove Aurora from his heart, but he couldn't, and finally one day he tampered with Aurora's pod and woke her up anyway. Before Aurora could regain consciousness and see what Jim had done, he went back to his cabin. The hologram assistant was giving Aurora the same information it had given Jim a year earlier. Jim had woken Aurora up, But he had no idea what to do next. Gathering his courage, he went down to the Grand Concourse to meet Aurora. Finding herself alone on the ship, Aurora was just as distressed as Jim had been. The moment she saw Jim, Aurora started firing questions at him, asking whether he was a passenger or a crew member, and where everyone else was. Jim told her that he was a passenger and that everyone else was in a deep sleep in their hibernation pods. He took her to the presentation room, where Aurora discovered that she had woken up 90 years earlier than scheduled. Aurora wanted to meet the ship's crew, so Jim took her there as well. Seeing the scattered tools in front of the crew room door, Aurora asked Jim how long he had been awake. 1 year and 3 months, Jim said. Hearing this, Aurora felt as if she had been struck by a shock, and saying that they should go back to the pod, she ran toward the pod room. Aurora's restlessness kept increasing, and Jim tried to calm her down. He explained that nothing could be done now, because entering hibernation requires special equipment and procedures, and these pods are designed to keep passengers in hibernation so that they can be awakened at the scheduled time. But these pods cannot put awakened people back into hibernation. Today was an extremely difficult day for Aurora. On one hand, she had woken up after many years, and on the other, she discovered that she was trapped in a situation from which escape was impossible. Jim realizes what a huge mistake he has made by waking Aurora up. He knows what will happen if she finds out about this. He is telling Arthur not to tell Aurora that I woke her up, saying I will tell her myself. The next day, when Jim is having breakfast in the canteen, Aurora is surprised to see his plate, asking does he always eat such plain food? Jim says that he has been eating grass and scraps for a whole year because he is not a gold-class passenger. Hearing this, Aurora immediately orders a delicious breakfast for Jim as well using her ID. Aurora asks Jim what the plan ahead is. Jim says there is no plan, saying nothing can be done, except waiting for death. Aurora is not ready to give up. She puts in all her effort, but in the end she too finally gives up. Meanwhile, malfunctions in the ship keep increasing. Robots, elevators, and other machines start developing glitches. Aurora also accepts that maybe this is her fate. To avoid stress, she goes jogging, swimming, and talks to herself. She is also writing a book about this journey. For her book, she wants Jim's interview, asking why he ultimately decided to leave his home, family, and friends and choose to settle on another planet. Jim's answer is for a better opportunity. Now the two of them spend most of their time together, sharing every thought, like, and dislike with each other. And finally, one day Jim asks Aurora out on a date. Aurora has also started liking Jim. She quickly agrees. The date turns out to be quite wonderful. Both of them eat delicious food, drink wine, go on a spacewalk, and become intimate as well. Now this has become their daily routine, talking their hearts out, drinking a little wine, and being intimate with full passion. Maybe this is the kind of life they both wanted. Jim has made up his mind that he will propose marriage to Aurora. He uses his mechanical skills to the fullest and makes a beautiful ring from some pieces of iron and wire and decides that he will propose to Aurora on her birthday. Finally, that day arrived. Both of them together celebrated Aurora's birthday with great excitement. But before Jim could speak his heart out to Aurora, Arthur spoke his heart out to Aurora. Actually, when Arthur found out that Aurora had also started loving Jim, and that both of them hid nothing from each other, then in the flow of conversation he told Aurora that her waking up was not an accident at all, but that Jim had woken her up. At first Aurora did not believe Arthur's words, but when she asked Jim, he had no answer. Aurora was deeply shocked, asking why he did this after all. Jim says that he tried very hard to stop himself, but he could not. Aurora's world turned upside down in a moment. She feels deceived. Her love for Jim has now turned into hatred. She says he pushed her into the jaws of death. Now an invisible line has been drawn in the ship. Both avoid coming face to face with each other. One evening Aurora came into Jim's room in great anger and started beating Jim fiercely. Jim is also aware of his mistake. He shows no resistance, as if he wants someone to just kill him. Jim knew what would happen when the truth came out. Yet he still woke Aurora up, and now he has no answer for Aurora, except sorry. He apologized to Aurora many times and tried to put forward his side, but now Aurora does not even want to hear his voice. Homestead Company claimed that their hibernation pods is fail-safe, but they were wrong, because apart from Jim's pod, one more pod failed and Avalon's deck chief Gus Mancuso also woke up from sleep. Chief Mancuso is also confused. Aurora and Jim explain everything to him and tell him that the destination is still 89 years away. Hearing this, the chief takes a deep breath and takes Jim and Aurora to the ship's cockpit. Upon inspection, it is discovered that all the data in the cockpit has been corrupted, and now they will have to go to every deck and collect the data manually. The chief explains the work to Aurora and Jim, hands each of them a digital slate, and sends them to different decks, while he himself goes to inspect the hibernation pods. During the inspection of the pods, the chief finds out that his pod and Jim's pod were accidentally damaged, but Aurora's pod was deliberately sabotaged by someone. It doesn't take him long to understand that this was Jim's doing. Taunting Jim, he says, "So this wasn't your luck," and asks whether Aurora knows the truth. The answer is written all over Jim's face, but when the chief learns that Jim has spent an entire year alone on this ship, he feels a little sympathy for him, and for now the issue isn't who did what. The chief's entire focus is on finding the cause of the malfunctions happening throughout the ship. When Aurora found out that the chief knows what Jim did, she was asking if Jim won't get punished for it. She says what he did is no less than murder. The chief understands Aurora's emotions, saying that "You're right, but Jim spent a year alone on the ship. Think about how stressful that would be." Just then, Jim makes his entry, telling them that another robot has broken down. The chief's condition also doesn't look good. Maybe it's the effect of hibernation. It was decided that they'll do the remaining work tomorrow, and everyone went to their respective cabins to rest. Meanwhile, while Jim and the chief were sleeping in their respective cabins, Aurora was swimming. Suddenly, the ship's engine shut down and all systems turned off, causing gravity loss inside the ship. Jim and Chief started floating in the air and the pool water turned into a big bubble. Aurora's life was saved just in the nick of time, and before anyone could get hurt, the ship fixed itself. The chief says that the system shut down and gravity loss was impossible, which means there's a very big problem in the ship. When they checked the traveling timeline, they found out that 2 years ago, the ship's entire system turned on and off 17 times in a single day, and the ship used a lot of energy. This is the same day when the ship collided with the steroids. The computer's risk analysis says that the danger is very high, and along with the mission, the entire ship could be destroyed. Before the chief could find out the problem and search for it, his condition worsened. Upon checking, 612 disorders were found in his body. Maybe it's the effect of pod failure, and now he has only a few hours left. He handed over his band to Jim and Aurora and asked them to find the problem and fix it. Saying this much, Deck Chief Gus Mancuso took his last breaths. Before Jim and Aurora could wake any crew member for help, malfunctions started again in the ship. Arthur also began behaving strangely. Jim with great difficulty managed to switch him off and set out with Aurora toward the main engineering room to find the problem. As soon as the door of the engineering room opened, a strong gust of wind pulled Aurora inside the room. In fact, due to collisions with asteroids, multiple holes have formed in the engineering room, because of which the ship is facing leakage and heating problems. With great difficulty, both of them managed to seal one hole, but there are still many holes in the room due to which the ship's temperature keeps rising. As soon as they opened the door of the reactor control room, they were stunned. The reactor control machine has been damaged, because of which a blaze of hot gases is erupting in the room right in front of the control room. In time, Jim did replace the damaged part of the reactor, but the system is unable to vent these hot gases out of the ship because the ship's outer door is jammed, and if these hot gases are not released soon, the entire ship will blast. And now Jim will have to do this manually. He put on a spacesuit and carrying a heat shield moved toward the outer door. Aurora used to think that Jim was selfish, that he could do anything for his own interest, but in this difficult moment, seeing his presence of mind and selfless nature, she understood that Jim is not selfish. Aurora says to Jim that he must return at any cost because she cannot live in the ship without him. Somehow Jim managed to open the outer door, but the problem is that the moment he lets go of the handle, the door closes again, meaning that to vent the fire from the reactor room, Jim has to keep holding the door handle. Jim opened the outer door and ordered Aurora to open the reactor ventilation door, but Aurora refuses to open the ventilation door, saying "You will die." Jim does not care about his own life. He says there are 5,000 people on the ship as well. If they are to be saved, then I have to do this. Even though she did not want to, Aurora had to open the ventilation door. The moment the door opened, flames rushed fiercely toward Jim. The fire came with such pressure that it swept Jim along with it. Because of the fire, Jim's spacesuit has been damaged. The oxygen level is dropping. In his final moments he is remembering Aurora, asking her for forgiveness. Before Jim is lost in the depths of space, Aurora, wearing a spacesuit, goes out to save him, and finally, after a lot of struggle, she succeeds in bringing Jim back inside the spaceship, but it seems Jim has died. The autodoc even confirms death. But Aurora is not one to give up. She uses the chief's ID and orders the autodoc to perform multiple procedures on Jim at the same time. Jim's luck was good. He returned from the mouth of death. Avalon's malfunctions have been fixed and it is moving toward its destination at full speed. Jim and Aurora performed the last rites of Chief Gus Mancuso with full respect, and Jim has also found a way to go into hibernation. He tells Aurora that there is an option in the autodock machine through which all metabolic activity can be stopped, sending a person into deep sleep. He says that with the help of the Chief's ID, they can use the autodock machine like a hibernation pod. Jim wants to correct his mistake. He wants Aurora to complete her journey and her book. But now Aurora does not want to go to Homestead 2, she wants to spend her entire life with Jim, and that is exactly what happened. Both of them got married, lived a happy life, and Aurora also wrote a wonderful book about this adventure-filled journey. And finally, Avalon did reach its destination. The film has ended. I hope you liked the story, and if you did, please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel.